Greetings, I'm Kenny Ratliff, manager of our Kayak Kit division, and we're here today to introduce and help you through a do-it-yourself project for installing lights or light packages into a set-in kayak. We've got our tools laid out. We're going to walk you through some equipment you need to have and tools ready. Some of these we may end up grabbing as we go. Each installation will be different. You can also perform this with set-on tops using the same sort of techniques. So with that, we'll get started and give you an end product before we're finished. Anytime you're doing an installation of these kits, there are certain tools and things, items you'll want to have available. Each installation will be different depending on the kayak that you're installing on. Certainly you'll have your light kit with the battery pack, your fuse, inline fuse, drill bits. All you see here is found in our kits. Then you will have certain things like to measure where you want to put the kits, to install the specific lights. You'll want to plan that out on your boat, mark where the holes need to go. Certainly putting a hole in a kayak is not something you're really accustomed to wanting to do. So you want to be sure and precise about where these are going. So having things like the squares, tape measures, certainly those you'll want present. We have our drills, our drill bits, we have our wiring, and for this installation we're going to use some two-sided tape with some guides to keep the wires tucked out of the way of the paddler. Especially on set-in kayaks, you want to have some sort of line or cable puller, and obviously strippers, scissors, and some pliers and electric tape. And we'll use some shrink wrap in some places. We also have, these will be a part of each kit, are your quick connects for the wiring system. And with that, we will get started. So prior to drilling holes in your kayak, you want to do some planning about the light placement. So in this case, we're trying to match lights on each side. We're going to install 3 on each side of the kayak. We've got use parts of the kayak as your gauge. In this case, there's a small indention on top where I've placed the square. I've eyeballed that across, and now I'm going to measure up off the seam where the molded pieces come together. A word of caution: if you're dealing with a boat like this that has a upper and lower and a seam where they join, you want to make sure that you can get the nut of the light, and if you can reach the back of the light, get it on there to secure that into the light hole that you drill. We're going to go back here and do another mark behind us in the middle, and then we're going to come on back to the back side where we'll have to use a cable puller or a wire puller to fish the light through. And once we mark that one and drill it, you'll see that you want to make the hole a little smaller than you would normally make the ones that you can reach, so that the threads help bite into the kayak plastic itself, as well as the silicone that will help hold it. So the location that we want our bow light placed has been marked. We're going to take a step bit, which is included as part of the kit package, and drill in to about a 12.5 millimeter depth, or width in this case. And once we do that, we'll insert the light. Again, make sure with the molded kayaks top and bottom that you don't put the light in a place where the nut won't square and bring the light flush to the hull. And now we're ready to insert the light. We'll also want to make sure before we cinch and tighten any of these lights down that we put a touch of silicone around the inside of the lip and once that pulls in, it'll make this installation a little bit more waterproof. So I'm just tightening the nut that comes with the light, and now we have a flush mounted light and our wiring back here ready to join together. So at this point we have our hose drill for the rear lights, and we've taken a fish tape, and you can adapt a metal hanger, any sort of stiff wire possibly. You can pick these up at pretty much any hardware store. We're going to we fish this through, and you can't reach the back because of the molding of the kayak, the top and the back rest. So we're going to tape just a wire, pull that wire back through the hole, take that wire then and tape it to the back of the lighting wire itself, the light wire, and pull that back through in order to get it up to our power source. So we're just looping, this is sort of a suicide wire that we're going to use, and we're going to tape the end around the wire fish tape puller, and that's just to pull this feed wire back, and then we're going to, once we pull it through, we'll pull this wire back with the lighting wire itself. So now we have two ends of the wire, and we can simply pull our lighting wire back through the same hole. So we have our fish wire that we're going to use to pull the back of the lighting wire back through the hole to where we can get it to our power source. So I'm simply going to take this and put a little bit of tape on it. Doesn't take much since we're not really pulling a whole lot of weight. This is simply to get it accessible up toward the power source. And now we're going to feed this back using our pull wire. Remember, for the holes that are drilled in places you can't get the nut on the back of the light itself, you want to make sure that the light or the hole is a little snugger than the light body itself. So now we have our wires up here accessible, where we're going to connect everything up to the power supply, and we're going to pop this light in, and before we finish we'll put a little silicone around the lip again to ensure that we have some waterproofness. So now we're ready to silicone here and then wire up here and put it all together to the power source. So for our power source, this comes with the kit. It's a rechargeable battery pack. We have a plug-in that will attach to this at each time you go out to come back, recharge the lights. In this case, we're going to use a couple pieces of Velcro. So that you can take the battery in and out of the boat. We're going to just simply stick that on the back of the battery pack. Make sure it has good contact. And then we're going to move up. In this instance, we have a flat spot underneath the upper hull. There's actually a little hole here, a tray, where there's already a hole that could be enlarged, and this could be fed into that hole and leave the battery pack on top. In this case, we're going to go ahead and put it underneath, and then we'll take some of our routing clips and get the wiring up out of the paddler's feet and out of their way. So now we just simply find a good flat spot. Get that good and pressed on there. And now we have our battery source loaded and ready to go. You might even use, in some cases, if you wanted, for setting kayaks especially, take some zip ties and drill a couple of holes just as an extra security measure. That would just simply cinch it up a little more, or use some sort of ties that you can take on and off. In order to keep the wiring from the lights out of the paddler's way of their feet, anything that would be inside of the kayak, in this case we're going to take some simple cable clamps and take two-sided tape, mount to the back of this in little small strips, and then secure that up underneath the hull and drop our wires into the small little runner in order to keep everything in a sort of orderly fashion. So in this instance, our rear light wires are not long enough to reach our battery source up front. So we're going to just clip in a short jumper wire, if you will, to get the length we need. We're taking obviously hot and ground, or positive and negative, and we have these supplied quick clips that we're going to use. You simply feed the ends of the wires up into the clip, make sure that they're as far inserted as they can go. So once the wires are inserted, we take the pliers, squeeze the top and the bottom. Inside of this is a silicone pack that will actually burst and come back through to seal these wires, making them watertight in the connection. So now we have our jumpers ready to run toward the power source. So we are taking our positive wires and our ground wires, negatives, and running them together on each side to get to essentially 6 leads to 2 leads. So we're putting a jumper to go to the power source. These little solder shrink wrap connectors are included as part of the kit, and just wanted to show you quickly how those work, or to some extent are supposed to work. So we feed our wrapped positive leads off of each light wire into the connector. We take our jumper wire that we're going to have, feed that in the other way, and overlap those two in the middle, and then take a heat source and just simply shrink wrap these together. This also creates a waterproof seal with the wiring as well, and you can always come back and secure those with some electrical tape as well to make sure your connection is solid. So now we have all of our positive wires down to one wire, all of our ground or negative into one wire, and we're going to simply insert these into the adapter for the power source and simply screw this down, getting a good tight grip on that wire. And you'll certainly want to try to waterproof either with some sort of gel or silicone once you've gotten this part done. But we're going to go ahead, get that ready, and then we'll plug this into the power supply itself. And there we go. As you can see, it's a little bit dark in our work area at this point. We have completed our light installation on this particular set-in kayak, and we're about to light it up and show you what it looks like. So there is our red, white, and blue lenses, and this completes our installation. All that's left to do is a little cleanup of the wiring on the inside to ensure it stays out of the paddler's way, and you will have the latest greatest once you've got our packages installed and be able to show off.